and gentlemen, welcome back to another very special, as always, episode of the Hyperconscious Podcast. We hope you enjoyed our latest episode where Alan and I sat down and we talked about 10 reasons why love makes you blind. Today, for episode number 409, we are hammering episodes here. We are going to talk about why insecurity creates arrogance in many people.
So what we've realized about the drive to 5, and for those of you who don't know what the drive to 5 is, simple explanation. You've got 0 to 10, a scale. 5 is obviously the middle. The 0s don't believe they deserve a mentor or are too afraid to get one. The 10s don't believe they need one. So the 10s are arrogant. They have a higher inflated view of self than the reality. Their confidence exceeds their competence. In other words, they think they're better than they really are. The opposite is true for the low end. And so on the 0 end, you have people who shell up and don't fully embody their greatness. And then on the other end, you have people who pufferfish and posture up because deep down, both ends of the spectrum are insecure. And so what Kevin and I have realized is that it's very much human nature to avoid insecurity.
Yes, for sure.
And to not face it. And so, for example, maybe if Kevin was ever insecure that he was short, maybe he would avoid situations where it would exacerbate him being short instead of facing the truth and accepting that. And so if there's ever an arena where you feel like you're puffer fishing or you're posturing or you're trying to kind of pretend you're better than you really are, most likely you're insecure about something. And I think figuring that out is important.
Yeah, so the reason it's called what it's called, Insecurity Creates Arrogance, think of it like this. Alan and I, when we do a speech, we always record our speeches, Jeff and the Wire, and we'll go back and we'll watch them. So the last one we watched together, I don't think we watched Top Notch Live together. I think we watched them separately. But when we did TMF, or Mass Maritime, I think we did Mass Maritime as well. Yeah. We literally got back to the house and just watched it. We sat down and watched the full thing. Now, a couple things can happen. Alan could come to me, or in this situation, he could say, Kev, I don't think that was your best performance. You didn't give great examples. You didn't project your voice. You didn't seem very confident. You didn't seem very energetic. Whatever. There's two ways I can take that. I can say, well, screw you, man. Like, you didn't do good. So I don't know why you're telling me I didn't do well. Like, that's kind of BS.
Right.
Or I can understand that Alan is coming at me with the intention of helping. Right? He's coming at me with love. He's trying to make me a better speaker. That's the goal. We're very growth-oriented. That's the goal. Now, if I choose the first one and I say, like, screw you, man, my natural reaction is going to be an overreaction. So rather than being humble and vulnerable, which I want to talk about, why vulnerability actually matters. Right. It matters in relationships. It matters all over the place. But what you staying vulnerable actually does is it keeps you in the position where you're able to be humble.
And learn.
Yeah. You cannot learn if you automatically pufferfish and you jump way past 5, you go up to 10. Because what happens is you become arrogant and you stop listening.
Yeah.
So my 10 reaction would be like, screw you, dude. You didn't give that great of a speech. I don't know why you're talking trash about mine. My staying at 5 would be like, okay, well, what do you think I could have done better? What is an example of a time where I've done that? Right? If you are trying to effectively communicate and learn, the only way to do it is to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
Because if you're not being vulnerable, either way, you're getting some form of the truth from the person, but you're not taking it.
Yeah, you're not using it.
No, you're going to say like, oh, Alan's kind of a dick for that.
And by the way, how does my speech being bad have anything to do with your speech?
Right.
And that's the interesting thing, right? And so I think there's a couple things that I want to make everyone aware of as well in this topic. It's a pain avoidance tendency. So I wrote on the whiteboard over there, pain avoidance equals truth avoidance. Because pain, as David Meltzer mentioned on our last LinkedIn Live, is just an indicator that something needs to change. And we ended up asking Dave openly and honestly, and I think I even said, are you willing to be vulnerable? Like, where are you in pain? And he said there's a lot of different ways to be in pain. You can be in pain physically, you can be in pain mentally, you can be in pain emotionally, you can be in pain spiritually, or you can be in pain financially. And he said he has a lot of financial pain right now because he's transitioning Sports One marketing over to his personal brand. And that's really hard because his Sports One marketing business was built around live events, Oscars, Grammys, all that stuff. And that doesn't exist right now during COVID. So if he keeps avoiding the truth of, no, like live events are still the way we're going to go and just avoiding the pain, you're not going to be able to adapt. If you have a sprained ankle and you just pretend it's fine, you're going to keep running on it the same way you would instead of healing it and doing physical therapy or whatever it is. So this is a great analogy for why does insecurity create arrogance? What happens is we overcorrect, like Kevin mentioned. Let's say you're insecure. Everyone think about the amount of money in their bank account right now. Okay? Let's say you're insecure about that number. You have two options. You can be insecure about that number, hide it from yourself and others, and pretend that you're more wealthy than you really are or that you're better than you are.
Or say money doesn't matter.
Or say money doesn't matter, exactly. Or you can admit the truth of like, okay, this isn't necessarily the worst thing ever, but it's not necessarily what I want in terms of my financial wealth, okay? And I'm speaking from experience right now. My bank account doesn't bother me right now. It's not like massive pain, but it's also not massive pleasure. I would love for it to be much more abundant. Okay, let me be vulnerable. What do I need to do to make it more abundant? What are the behaviors that I'm doing that are contributing to my bank account not reflecting what I want it to reflect? And who could I learn from? Most importantly, who could I learn from to create more financial abundance? That's the power. Now, it doesn't feel good to be vulnerable and admit to yourself that you're, broke or, struggling. And I'm not saying I'm broke, but I remember Brendan Burchard said this. The time when it's most important to open your bills is the time when you want to the least. Mm. And that's what vulnerability is. Let's just, that admittance factor of like, wow, I really am Jeffin. But that's the moment you open yourself up to a new book or a new tip or a new podcast. I mean, all of you out there listening right now, I bet you the first time you listened to the Hyperconscious podcast was when you were in pain. And you were like, it seems like maybe these guys might know something that I don't.
We don't. We definitely don't. This is the thing. And you said it, like, you're avoiding the truth. Right. The truth is still the truth. Did my speech suck? Yes, in this situation. Right? Did my speech suck? Yes. Now, what's going to happen is if I don't take that feedback and stay humble, the same mistake is going to happen again. Over and over and over. And I was going to say, I think one of the reasons why having a coach is so important is because you're giving them the okay to tell you the truth. And since it's a coach-mentee relationship, you don't ego up because you have to be humble because you know they know more than you.
And you're paying them to tell you the truth.
Right. And that's why you, like, very rarely, I don't know about you, but on my coaching calls, very rarely does a client ego up.
Yeah, almost never. Yeah.
Right.
It has happened, but very rare.
Yeah. So, and I think that's the reason why. Like, if I come to you for advice and I don't get the advice I want, too bad. I didn't come to you for the advice I want. I came to you for advice. There's a difference.
Right.
And it's all how you take it. Because if you don't take it the right way, you're not going to use it the right way. Yeah. You might not use it at all. You might just say, like, oh, screw Alan. He doesn't know. No, but what does Alan know that I don't? A ton. Right? And he's seen me speak more than anybody. He's seen me across the chair for 409 episodes. Right? And you've seen me on other shows. Right? So you know way more than anybody else in terms of my speaking ability. You've seen it more. So your opinion, and that's the other thing, that might be one of the reasons why it hurts. Because your opinion is super valuable. Taryn's opinion is super valuable. She says, like, I don't really think you did your best work. It's like, oh, my God. And again, a couple reactions. Screw you. You're not even a speaker. Like, what do you mean? You have no idea what it's like.
Yeah, that's the overcorrection.
That's the overcorrection.
Ego. That's the arrogance. Yeah.
Versus she could say, well, there was a lot of women there, so I understand what from a woman's perspective, what she would have liked to hear a little bit better. You're right. I am not a woman, and I don't know the perspective of a woman. Right? So there's something to learn everywhere, for sure.
Her only goal, too, is to help you. And that's the thing.
Right.
Like, and I say this often, when you're giving someone feedback, your goal is not for that. Like, let's say I were to tell you feedback about a speech. Like, we redid Cultivating Confidence last week for the Mastermind, and my only goal was to help raise your awareness to what I believe, and maybe you'll decide to change something. That doesn't mean you have to. No, like, if you like it, you like it. But I honestly think you can't really grow if you're arrogant. Which is actually, and by the way, the reason you're arrogant is because deep down, you're actually insecure. You're afraid to get hurt. Yeah. You're afraid you don't know. And you're afraid to be exposed.
And the truth is, you don't know, probably.
Yeah.
if you're at a 5, you know that you don't know, but you also know that you can ask somebody who knows.
And you can figure it out.
Yeah. Like, I think I think people overcorrect naturally on everything, right? So if you get out of a bad relationship, you're going to say screw relationships.
Right.
Or if you've been wronged by a male, you're going to say screw guys. Guys suck.
I know.
If you've been wronged by a female, you're going to say, oh, they're untrustworthy and they cheat, blah, blah, blah. Overcorrection.
Right.
Versus saying like, oh, well, what actually happened? What's the actual truth of what happened? Oh, I was cheated on. Okay. Right? Okay, I was cheated on. What does that mean? This one person did me wrong. That's all it means. It doesn't mean you're a bad person. It doesn't necessarily mean they're a bad person. It doesn't mean all men are bad. It doesn't mean all women are bad. It doesn't mean any of that. What it means is something happened and now you have some information to work with.
Right. Another thing that I have written down over there is blind spots and standards. So here's what I would say as well.
See this mug? Did I show this mug?
I think you showed the mug.
I don't know if it was in one of the outtakes that we did.
Yeah. Kevin has a new mug. It's green. It's beautiful.
From Vermont.
So blind spots and standards. I asked Emilia yesterday, I said, where from your perspective do you think I have an inflated view of self? And it was actually really kind of nice that it took her a while to come up with something, because I honestly thought there was going to be a few quick things like, oh, here, and here, right? But
just these 7.
Yeah. And by the way, it pulls out a note. Imagine that, like a list, like a mile long. But she ended up coming up with one thing, and there was this one thing that I try to communicate about, how to design a world-class life and the way in which I communicated it. She was watching a peak performance training that I gave not long ago, and she said that there was mostly women in the room. And again, from the female perspective, there's this one thing that doesn't resonate. And she raised my awareness. And then today, she texted me this morning about all these other examples that I could use to communicate more effectively.
Well, we'll see tonight.
Yeah, we will.
Well, you guys will see
Next
Tuesday.
Yeah. So, again, where are your blind spots? I can't even tell you how many times I've asked Kev, like, what am I unaware of? Like, where do you think, I remember I asked you this, where am I puffer fishing, or where do I have an inflated view of self? And you said fitness. And it's always helped me. Now, the last thing that I'll say here, and I wrote this on the whiteboard, get around people whose example prove what's real. So let me give you an example. Let's say I am on my end of Drive to 5, and I think that I'm really, really strong, and I'm getting stronger. Let's say I go to the gym with Kevin. Kevin's a lot stronger than me. It's going to wake me up. Here's what I will tell you. Your environment will either keep you in the dark or wake you up by their example. Kevin's not going to say, hey, man, you're weak and I'm strong. That's a toxic person. But if I go to the gym with Kevin, I might draw my own conclusion that Kevin is strong and I'm weak. That's okay, because guess what? I have self-belief, and now I can learn from Kevin on how to get stronger. Being in the gym with him might be painful, but it will definitely get me stronger. And this is an analogy for everything. If you think you're a good speaker, go to a Brendan Burchard event. I did that. If you think you're a bad speaker, realize that maybe Brendan Burchard's been speaking for 15 years, and you're on your first speech.
Right.
So I think the truth is being willing to be vulnerable, being willing to be a student, understanding where your blind spots are, and having a high standard for yourself when it comes to being at 5.
And notice what you're saying. So I love anytime we talk about me, I'm pretty happy about it, and just in general, especially in the gym. So say Alan and I go to the gym, and Alan sees me lifting more weight than him. He has the same reaction. He can overcorrect very easily and say a couple things. Well, Kevin's been lifting a lot longer than I have. True.
Yeah.
Kevin's on steroids. Not true, but I've gotten that my entire life.
Right.
Now, notice not only what you're saying, but how you're saying it. If you're down on yourself, if you're on the low end of Drive to 5, you come to the gym with me, I'm lifting way more weight than you, I want you to say, well, Kevin's been lifting a lot longer. But I want you to say it like that. That's why it's okay that I'm not as strong as Kevin.
Right.
Kevin's been lifting a lot longer.
But I can get as strong.
Exactly.
And
Brendan
I can learn
Burchard.
from Kevin. Yeah.
Well, it must be nice. He's probably just super talented at speaking. Or he's been speaking for 20-something years. Of course he's the best in the world. He's also the author of High Performance Habits, so his habits are on point too.
Right.
You're capable of that too. So if you notice yourself jumping, I used to do that all the time. Must be nice. Like I'd see a nice car. Must be nice. Yeah, it probably is very nice, but they also probably work super hard for that.
Right.
Right? So I'm as guilty of this as anybody. watch your overcorrections. I always know what I'm doing. I did it recently on the team call. Alan brought something up,
Oh, yeah.
and I was literally like, no. It's the worst idea I've ever heard in my entire life.
Yeah.
Just for no reason. Now, the backstory, Alan was a little late, but he was giving a peak performance training. I didn't know that. I just thought he was jeffing. And then he came in and kind of stole my thunder a little bit. So I overcorrected.
Yeah.
That's what I did. I know what I'm doing because I start making stupid things that don't even make sense. Like, no, man, I don't have time to add something to the list once a day. But I know myself. That's hyperconsciousness. Right? I know when I get insecure. I know when I'm overcorrecting.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking to myself, like, why am I still fighting this battle? This isn't even a battle I want to win. It's not. There's no winner.
Even a battle I want to win.
There are no
no
winners
winners.
and losers.
Yeah.
But so know that about yourself.
Yeah.
When do you overcorrect? Is it when your partner gives you some sort of criticism? Okay? Is it when your boss gives you some sort of criticism? Your child, your parent, if you're younger, right? Like who creates? Well, you create it. Who is triggering that overreaction? Figure that out, because once you figure it out, then you can start to dial it back, and you can say like, okay, normally under this circumstance, I'm unresourceful, so my natural reaction is to overcorrect. How can I not do that? Maybe let me try to land a little bit more in the middle, right? And the other thing, like Alan said, if the people in your life are trying to help you, you're going to be missing out. Like if you and I are mentoring somebody, and they say, hit me with the truth. Number one, we love that. Absolutely love that. But if I hit you with the truth and you tell me I'm dumb, or like, oh, that's not true. Okay. Like, I'm probably going to be far less likely to give you the truth again, because I don't know that you can handle it.
Right. Remember when we had Chris Harder on, which we might have him on again?
Yes.
And I said my financial pillars, and I was like, poke holes in this.
Yes.
And he's like, Alan, you forgot about growing your income. I literally said, have an emergency fund, spend less than you earn, invest the difference, reinvest the earnings for compounded growth, all that different stuff. And he's like, what about making more money, man? And it was just like, okay, is that painful? Yes, but I asked for the truth because I want to be more effective. I ask David Meltzer all the time, like, can you poke holes in this philosophy? Because I want to get better. You can either get better or avoid the truth. And you can't, I have up on the board, see it as it is, but not worse than it is. That's kind of what you just described if someone went to the gym with you, right? See it as it is, but not worse than it is. Okay, you go to the gym with Kevin, he's stronger. See it as it is. He's been lifting longer, yes. Okay.
I should be stronger.
But right, exactly. But that doesn't mean that I can't get stronger. See it better than it is. I can get as strong as Kevin one day.
You're stronger than Kevin.
Exactly. Okay, number 3, figure out how to make it the way you see it. So number 1, see it as it is, but not worse than it is. See it better than it is. Have a vision. I can be like Kevin too. Or stronger, which I will. No, I'm just kidding. One day. Number 3, figure out how to make it the way you see it. And I remember I make the most progress once I get humbled and I stay humble and I ask for feedback. I'm actually going to do that more often. Like, I want to know what's my blind spots. What am I missing from your perspective? And when you ask, by the way, you're not being attacked. You asked.
Right.
So
make sure you're in a good spot when you ask.
Oh yeah.
Like when you do your check-ins, make sure you're in a good spot.
Or try to be, anyways.
Yeah.
But sometimes you got to check in when you're not in a good spot.
Yeah, unfortunately.
You've. What did you get? Threes.
I pulled threes.
You
man.
pulled threes, man. I'm not
threes.
scared of anything.
I'm not scared of anything.
Kevin said it's a lot like.
It's like falling off a building, but on the way down, people are like shooting you with a paintball gun. Like, you already know you're going to probably get hurt pretty bad or die, and they're like, well, I'm going to inflict some pain for the journey as well.
That's pretty good analogy.
Analogy. That's multiple analogies. That's what we signed up for. That's what we signed up for when we said we're going to do these check-ins.
Yeah.
And honestly, we've been jeffing them a little bit. We haven't been doing them as consistently.
Oh, no?
We still do the nightly. Did you feel loved? Did you feel listened to? Did you feel appreciated? Did you feel supported? Did you feel romanced? What do you need from me? But we haven't been doing the Sunday ones because we're jeffing.
Because you're jeffing?
It's because we wait too long.
Well, that's what's the truth of why are you jeffing?
We wait too long. We don't make it enough of a priority. It's a pre-bed thing instead of like, hey, let's do this at 4 in the afternoon so we have time.
Right.
Yeah, so I take credit for that. So this my as always, I have a challenge, a takeaway. I want you guys to get crystal clear on where you think you're overreacting, why you're doing it, and try. And again, this is difficult and this takes time. But the goal, and what I think full hyperconsciousness is being present enough to know what's happening in the moment, but being able to shift it.
Right.
Like knowing, oh, I know what I'm doing here. This is what's happening. How do I shift it? Because I already shifted from where I was to where I am. How do I shift back? That's possible. So that's my challenge.
My challenge would be what are your insecurities? What are you?
Wow, that thing's loud.
Timer went off, folks. So Matthew McConaughey talks about this. He says, don't get all macho. Like, there's those T-shirts, no fear or whatever. And he says, no, fear is a good thing. He's like, I was afraid before I came to this speech today. He was giving a commencement. And I like to look my fears in the face. I'm doing with Kevin, a peak performance training tonight. And one of them is looking your Jeffings in the eye. And I think that you can either feel good or be good. And I know that sounds a little hardcore. Here's what I mean. Sometimes it doesn't feel good to acknowledge the truth, but you can't get better until you do. So sometimes it's more important on the micro to take the feedback and the pain, but you'll actually do something valuable with it, like change your behavior or change your perception. So I would just say, what are you insecure about? What are your fears? And now they won't control you. Because you can spend your whole life, like Jim Carrey says, you can spend your whole life imagining ghosts and running from your fears, or you can live in abundance and love. And it's like, the only way to overcome fear is to first acknowledge it is one.
If one of your big fears is getting that podcast rolling.
Ah, strong work.
Not bad. Not a bad segue.
Yeah.
I am offering free 30-minute consultations to anybody and everybody. My goal is just to add as much value as I can. Guys, we've done 400, and after today, we'll be at, well, we're recording our episodes. So this is 409. We've done 409. I've also done close to 100 podcast episodes for my clients. So I'm right around 500. It's been an amazing journey. Podcasting has probably changed my life more than anything. If you have a story to tell, if you have a mission, if you want to impact others, if you want to spread your knowledge and expertise, a podcast is a great way to do that. And if you're afraid, I will show you the way and help you.
Yeah, I've seen you help people. This whole journey, you've helped so many people start their shows. Man.
I love it.
It's unreal.
I love it.
Including the Y Power podcast with B and Emilia.
Free cred.
Yeah. So if you're out there right now and you want to scale your impact online, here's what I'll tell you. The truth of the matter is, and you can ask yourself this question: what is the most valuable part of the future? And I think I have the answer. It's digital real estate. If you go where people's attention are, that's where the economy is. There's a reason Amazon's the most successful company in the world. It's because they make it easy to purchase online. E-commerce, believe it or not, is in its infancy. This is the very beginning. So you're going to have to learn how to scale your impact online if you want to succeed in the future. Peak performance. Let me help you design a life that's world-class based on what I know is coming in the every Also, every Monday night, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we are here teaching Mastermind.
Fire.
Knowledge, wisdom, experience. No, but seriously, it's a great networking opportunity. We have people put their Instagram handles in the chat. We'll remember to do that tonight as well.
Yes.
And there's also questionnaires that we send people after these masterminds that are absolute fire. Manifestation. We're doing peak performance tonight. We've done all kinds of cool stuff. We also have featured guests every month. The next one might be Isabella Picard. Possible.
Okay.
Possible. For week 18. Don't miss those. Monday night, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Reach out to myself, Kevin, Amy, or Tiff on the gram.
Are you done?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just about done. Masterminds. Change lives.
Ladies and gentlemen, we hope you enjoyed this. Again, my challenge is to figure out where you're overcorrecting, where you're overreacting, and then try to nip that in the bud. I believe that is a term. We hope you enjoyed this, and we will talk to you on Sunday.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.